There are people in this world for whom life ended and then began again sometime later.
I left my body and actually was told I couldn't be there.
They are here to answer our long-held question.
While defending his girlfriend after a Halloween party, he was in a coma for almost a month. Doctors said his odds of making it...
Made it. He's strong.
He's a miracle.
It's pretty rare. So he's a pretty good fighter, I think.
Creepy messages.
Okay, I'm gonna get help started to you. You know the address that you're at?
Seeing Jesus and waking up during their funeral.
I saw a man that had longish, kind of ruffled hair, kind of thick beard. It didn't take me long to realize that that was Jesus.
Here is what happens when people declared deceased suddenly open their eyes. A railway worker woke up to find the world completely different from the one he knew. Jan Grzewski was left in a coma back in 1988, and doctors informed his family to prepare for the worst. But guys, hope and prayers are a powerful thing, aren't they? In 2007, Jan stunned everyone by waking up after 19 years. Once he could process everything, he was shocked to see just how much the world had changed. Even more shockingly, he had a whole new family with his 11 grandchildren. Jan described the world as prettier now, being kind of sad by the changes he had missed. Even after being in a coma for nearly 2 decades, Jan could speak and walk just fine. Tina Hines. This woman not only claims to have met with Jesus, but also has proof. Tina Hines passed away during a routine morning stroll in February of 2018, and everyone believed that she was no longer with them.
It was crazy, but I had to be happy too that at least she is alive.
At least not for the next 28 minutes, because she came back and told everyone the truth she had been holding for the past half hour. She scribbled, "It's real," on a piece of paper, and right after gaining senses, claimed to have seen a radiant figure who she called Jesus Christ.
I just wanted to share that I saw Jesus face to face,
offering her his glowing, radiant hands. This powerful experience transformed her life and touched everyone who heard her story. Ghost Boy. Surviving the biggest odds, Martin Pistorius left everyone in shock. This man was once a 15-year-old boy who stayed in his bed for nearly a decade. He got stuck inside his own body for years while his mind remained sharp and alert. At just 12 years old in 1988, he was diagnosed with a mysterious illness that left him trapped in a vegetative state. Doctors were baffled, and for over a decade, Martin couldn't communicate or even blink. Then at 25, his therapist noticed slight movement in his eyes. She informed the doctors, who then realized that Martin's mind was alive all along. This moment changed his life forever, as he is now a happily married guy who learned to communicate through a computer-generated voice.
This is how you communicate now.
Yes.
He even shared his journey in his book Ghost Boy and became a powerful advocate for those with locked-in syndrome and abilities. Zach Clemens. Zach, a 17-year-old Texan, had a birthday to remember, when luckily, he got to meet Jesus. He woke up 3 days later from a coma. He was completely fine. As soon as he woke up, he told everyone he had an incredible experience during those 20 minutes. He met Jesus, who gently reassured him that everything would be all right, surrounded by a group of angels.
I saw a man that had longish, kind of ruffled hair with a kind of thick beard. It didn't take me long to realize that that was Jesus.
Jeff Olsen. In 1997, Jeff Olsen was involved in a severe incident that left him with major injuries, including over 40% of his body affected. The situation was so critical that he was momentarily thought to be beyond saving.
I left my body and actually was told I couldn't be there.
During this hard period, Jeff had a unique journey where he felt lifted beyond his pain and into a realm of pure light and love.
There's certain moments of that I'll never forget. It's almost like time stood still, especially in hindsight.
He met familiar faces from his past and felt an overwhelming sense of compassion and peace. The light he saw was unlike anything he had ever imagined. This incredible experience changed Jeff's perspective on life, leading him to become a motivational speaker and author, sharing his inspiring story with the world. Thanksgiving gift. A 21-year-old man from San Francisco woke up from a coma just in time for Thanksgiving dinner. After a Halloween night turned dramatic when he got hurt defending his girlfriend, doctors feared the worst, giving him only a 25% chance to pull through. Yet, thanks to skilled medical care and sheer determination, he started to come around.
He made it. He's strong.
He's a miracle.
It's pretty rare. So he's a pretty good fighter, I think.
Slowly but surely, he regained consciousness and against all odds was able to join his family for Thanksgiving. His unexpected recovery made the holiday even more special, transforming a tense situation into a heartwarming celebration. What a way to give thanks for a second chance at life. Blake Hyland. In a story that feels like a real-life miracle, a 14-year-old gymnast's struggle and triumph will leave you speechless. When 14-year-old Blake's gymnastics class took an unexpected turn, he ended up in a coma after a head bump while trying a new trick. For 5 weeks, Blake was in a deep sleep at Baylor Scott and White Hillcrest Medical Center, with doctors not sure what the outcome would be. Then, a touching moment changed everything. As his father bent in for a kiss, Blake managed a faint kiss back. That tiny sign of life was the first sign of hope. Blake wasn't ready to give up, so the little chances turned into her survival.
Thank you everyone for your prayers.
Now 16 and heading back to 10th grade, he's made an incredible comeback. Although he has some memory and mobility challenges, his recovery is truly inspiring and shows the power of determination. 10 years prank. Ever heard of a prank that makes you question reality? Let me tell you about one that went way beyond the norm. Ray, a guy who had passed out from too much partying, found himself in a hospital room. I know it sounds ordinary, but guys, it isn't really. Some of his friends decided to give him a wake-up call he'd never forget. He even named this prank as Epic Don't Drink and Drive Prank.
Oh my gosh, my son was 2 years old when you came in here, and he's 12 now.
Ray woke up to his friend, dressed as a doctor, breaking the news that he'd been in a coma for a whole 10 years. Trust me, guys, if I were in Ray's shoes, I'd be floored too. But Ray sat there quietly, trying to wrap his head around the news, until his friend finally confessed it was all just a grand joke. And thanks to them for finally revealing it.
He laughed a lot. He laughed a whole lot. He just thought man, you guys got me, man. Daggone, man, you got me.
Carlos Camejo. A 33-year-old Carlos Camejo from Venezuela survived the impossible, making his adventure one for the books. After a serious incident near Caracas, Carlos showed no signs of life, not even a faint pulse. The medical examiner was about to start the autopsy when something didn't feel right. He could feel something coursing through his veins, which meant his heart started beating. And he woke up feeling, well, not great, but realized he was still alive. The surprise didn't end with the doctors only. When his wife came to identify him, she found Carlos very much awake and chilling in the hallway. He even flaunted his autopsy report to the local paper. Polish woman. At 91, Janiny Kowalski took what was supposed to be a short nap, but instead of waking up in her room, she found herself in a place she never expected. Her physician, Dr. Lawa, declared her gone, and her family set everything in motion for memorial services. Papers were signed and preparations were underway. Then Janny came out alive. Dr. Lawa, who was certain she was gone, was also completely stunned. I mean, we can imagine everyone's shock when Janiny returned home, had a meal, and felt perfectly fine. She probably had no idea how close she came to her final farewell. Navy vet. In 2018, a man woke up in a hospital with no clue who he is or even how to speak his own language. And later on, he got to know that he has survived the odds. Michael Boatwright was found unconscious in his motel room, and when he came to, he was speaking only Swedish and had no memory of being an American or even knowing English. He was found with all his personal ID, including a military ID proving he was a US citizen. But Boatwright kept on insisting his name was John from Sweden, surprising everyone with his sudden and complete amnesia. Even doctors were left scratching their heads over this mystery.
It can be very challenging to figure out that the cause of somebody's sometimes very dramatic symptoms is actually psychological.
To this day, Michael's case remains one of the most puzzling stories out there. Finn Settle. He went in for a standard appendix surgery, but came out with an astonishing story. Everything was planned to be smooth and straightforward, but things took a surprising turn. The anesthetic decided to take an unexpected break, leaving Finn wide awake on the operating table. Now, fully alert but unable to move or call out, Finn felt trapped as doctors and nurses buzzed around him, oblivious of his conscious state. In a moment of desperation and quick thinking, he figured out a unique way to get their attention by urinating on himself.
So I wet myself. It was the only thing I could think of doing was
to do that.
Believe it or not, that bold move worked like a charm. The medical team swiftly realized something was off, administered more anesthesia, and completed the surgery successfully. So if you ever find yourself in a tight spot, remember Finn's creative solution. Sometimes a little ingenuity can make all the difference. Woman rising. In South Africa, a woman was mistakenly declared deceased and sent to the mortuary. She was a 52-year-old Constantina Jr. Govender. While casually strolling to a friend's house, she suddenly blacked out. Next thing she knows, she's waking up in a morgue, wrapped up in a sheet next to others. Imagine that shock. Govender panicked and says she has no clue how she ended up there, just that she woke up freezing in the mortuary.
Never for once thought that I will be in a mortuary alive.
According to her, the staff eventually wheeled her out, but the hospital claims there's no record of her. Only 8 women were admitted that year, all with detailed files. So is Govender's story a wild tale? Or is the hospital hiding something? What's your take? Del Toro. Now, let me tell you an incredible tale of an incredible person known as DT. This Air Force veteran has an awe-inspiring comeback story that's nothing short of extraordinary. Back in December 2005, while serving in Afghanistan, DT's vehicle hit an IED. Doctors didn't give him much hope, but DT wasn't ready to quit. Against all odds, he survived and faced countless surgeries. By 2010, he not only rejoined the Air Force, but became the first 100% combat-disabled airman to do so. DT didn't stop there. He thrived in the Air Force Wounded Warrior program and shone as a Paralympic athlete. You can even read his memoir, A Patriot's Promise, which shares his remarkable journey. Donna Pinner. Meet Donna from Manitoba, Canada, who had been into a real-life story during what she'd been a routine surgery. Everything was set for her procedure, but the anesthesia went rogue, leaving Donna wide awake while the doctors got busy with her surgery. Donna was fully aware, feeling everything, but couldn't move or speak. She felt like being trapped in a nightmare, where you're a spectator in your own horror show. And guess what? Nobody in the operating room noticed her silent scream. A decade later, Donna's battling job loss and nightmares, but she's turning her pain into purpose. She's teaming up with Canadian universities to make sure no one else has to live her nightmare. That's what is called a surprising comeback. Uttar Pradesh Man. A Uttar Pradesh man came out alive after being declared deceased by doctors after 7 hours. It happened in November 2021, when in the bustling town of Askumar, Uttar Pradesh, an old man was declared deceased, and his family was busy preparing for his final rites. Just as his body was laid out on the funeral pyre, the unthinkable occurred. He woke up! Starving and confused, he asked for food and drinks while still laying on the pyre. I can imagine how much shocked everyone would be when an old man presumed lifeless came back to life and started eating like it was just another day. His stunning revival stunned everyone and made headlines worldwide. And after all that media frenzy, no one can quite explain this unexpected turn of events. Alive in Coffin. Here comes another story that will make even the doctors double-check the deceased ones. In Ecuador, Bella Montoya, a 76-year-old woman, was declared gone, and her family was ready for her burial. They had even placed her in a coffin and were preparing for the final rites. But just as the lid was about to close, sounds started coming from inside the coffin. When the family opened it, Bella's eyes fluttered open. Instead of resting in peace, she was very much alive and tapping on the coffin's lid. She'd been pronounced deceased at the hospital after a stroke, but clearly someone missed the memo. Bella was rushed to another hospital, and a thorough investigation followed. Talk about a grave misunderstanding. Husband versus wife. In 2004, Noelle Recondo moved from Burundi to Australia with her 5 kids, eager for a new beginning. She met and married Balenga Kalala, another refugee, and they had 3 more kids in Melbourne. But by 2015, Kalala's doubts led him to hire a hitman to get rid of Noella. One day, the hitman arrived, but instead of harming her, they stunned Noella by revealing their mission had been set up by her husband. They even asked for more money and handed over proof of Kalala's scheme. Kalala went through with a fake funeral, thinking Noella was gone. Imagine his surprise when she walked in perfectly fine. Noella decided to forgive him and leave the rest to fate. Finally, Kalala ended up with a 9-year sentence, but his betrayal cast a long shadow over everyone who knew the story. Man in Kenya. In Navashi, Kenya, something straight out of a spooky tale happened at the local mortuary. A man who'd been thought to be in a deep sleep and left in the morgue suddenly woke up after 20 hours. Imagine this, he sits up on the mortuary bed, startling both his shocked family and the nervous staff. Instead of calmly waking up, he panicked and ran out of the hospital room, calling for help as he ran. His unexpected comeback from what everyone thought was a final rest turned into a wild scene, making this bizarre event one of the most memorable moments at that hospital. Grandfather's grand entry. 74-year-old Miguel Angel Gomar de Luna decided to ditch his nursing home for a wild drinking spree. He roamed the streets, sipping and charming his way to more booze. Months later, during a chilly winter, the authorities delivered shocking news. They claimed they'd found a body that seemed to match Miguel's description. His family was shown the body, but it was so badly decomposed that recognizing it was nearly impossible. And here comes the twist. The authorities said that if the family didn't confirm it, they wouldn't release the body for cremation. So they reluctantly signed off. Just when they thought it was over, they got a call. Miguel was alive. Now, their granddad was officially 6 feet under, but very much stumbling around. Velma Thomas. In 2008, Velma faced something no one could have predicted. After suffering a heart attack at home, she ended up in the hospital, where things took a dramatic turn. Velma had 3 heart attacks and was declared clinically gone for a staggering 17 hours. Her family clung to hope, praying for a miracle. Just when they were about to give up, 10 minutes later after they disconnected her life support, Velma made a surprising comeback. Even the heart specialists were stunned. Her son, thinking his mom was gone for good, left the hospital, but then he received a call. Velma was back. Rushing to her side, he found her alive, asking for him. Velma still holds the world record for the longest time clinically gone before making an incredible return. Now that's a miraculous comeback. Lazarus Syndrome. In 2012, Taslim Rafiq, with her surprising comeback story, made even Hollywood screenwriters jealous. After dealing with some serious health issues, she was found unconscious one day. The doctors even warned her family before that if her heart started again, the outcome would not really be good. The family was gathering for a final goodbye when, in a plot twist straight out of a movie, Taslim just woke up and began chatting with her astonished daughter, and by the next morning was making jokes as if nothing had happened. Diagnosed with multiple sclerosis at 32, she felt crazy lucky to be alive, joking that God said, "I'm going to leave this lady." Taslim was back by October 2012 and began a happy life. Dorothy Eady. In 1904 London, a 3-year-old girl named Dorothy's life took an unbelievable turn when tumbled down the stairs and went completely still. But then, defying all odds, she suddenly woke up. From then on, things got even stranger. Dorothy became obsessed with ancient Egypt, and not just in a casual way. She knew all about Egyptian history and hieroglyphics like she had lived it, claiming to be the reincarnation of a priestess called Seti. Her detailed knowledge stunned everyone, even experts. She landed a job at the Temple of Seti I in Abydos, leaving a mark on Egyptology that's as fascinating as it is eerie. So Dorothy's life is a blend of intrigue and mystery that's really hard to ignore. Young Sukon. This story is so intriguing that it could easily be a blockbuster film. On October 16, 2022, 42-year-old Young found herself in a nightmare when her estranged husband, Che Cho-young, showed up at their old home. Che had come to do laundry but ended up in a fierce argument with Young over their divorce. Che tied Young up with duct tape, hands, eyes, thighs, and ankles. But Young wasn't about to give up easily. Using her Apple Watch, she quickly called 911 and reached out to her daughter and best friend. Che, thinking she'd left Young in a tight spot, took her to a garage and then left her in the forest. But with quick thinking and a bit of tech magic, Young had a plan in place to get help and turn things around. She managed to wiggle out of the tape and dig her way out of the grave. After a brave 30-minute run, she found refuge at a nearby house. Once safe, she helped the police track down Che, who was soon arrested. Now, Young is safe and happily back with her family, recovering from her harrowing ordeal. Russian journalist. Arcadian Binko, a Russian journalist, left everyone dumbfounded when he revealed that his supposed passing away in Ukraine was all a setup. It turns out the whole thing was a carefully crafted operation. Binko showed up in a press conference to apologize to his wife, admitting he'd put her through a nightmare. Ukrainian officials had declared him deceased after he stepped out of his Kyiv apartment. But the twist? The whole drama was meant to expose a serious threat against him that had been brewing for months. Things didn't end smoothly, though. Binko faced backlash from Russian officials, who even stripped him of his passport and labeled him a traitor. Guess faking your own demise has some serious consequences. Dr. Mary Helen. Mary's car crash was more than just a close call. It turned into something really extraordinary. When she found herself in the afterlife, it was like stepping into a cosmic dream. She saw herself floating in a world drenched in soft golden light, where every breath felt like a hug from the universe.
I was like, oh my gosh, and it's like you want to shake everybody, you want to run around and tell everybody that you can. Guys, it's just like walking through a door.
In this surreal space, Mary met a glowing figure who showed her that time was like a giant puzzle, with pieces scattered everywhere. She saw her life flash by, every moment connecting with others in ways she'd never imagined. When she returned to reality, Mary brought back a deep sense of love and a new understanding of the soul's journey. Essie Dunbar. In 1915, Essie Dunbar had a chilling experience that became local lore of revival. On a scorching summer day after a seizure, Essie's family was sure she had passed away. Even the doctor agreed, so they went ahead with the memorial services. But the story took an amazing turn when her sister arrived late and insisted on seeing her one last time. To everyone's surprise, Essie sat up with a big smile. The three preachers startled beyond belief. Her family was convinced she was a ghost, but Essie went on to live another 47 years, showing incredible courage and spirit through it all. Shankar Gambi. And now, imagine waking up to find yourself in the middle of a crowd, only to discover you're supposed to be lifeless. That's what happened to Shankar Gambi in Malampur, India. After being declared unresponsive at a private hospital, his family, thinking he was on his last leg, moved him to a government hospital. Unfortunately, they were told he had gone. But here's the twist. When Dr. Galgi arrived to perform the post-mortem, he found Shankar was very much alive. The crowd of 2,000 people was stunned as Shankar woke up, ready to prove he didn't need any help at all. The government hospital had made a huge mistake, and Dr. Galgi made sure everyone knew it. Screaming Man. A man in his 60s who had lost consciousness and stopped breathing was mistakenly picked up by a private mortuary service instead of paramedics. He spent a chilling 21 hours in the morgue thinking he was done for, but then the unexpected happened. He woke up, shivering in the freezing cold, and started screaming for help. The workers, initially scared by the eerie sounds, thought they'd encountered a ghost and fled in panic. After a hasty retreat and regrouping, the team returned to find the bewildered man, frozen, but very much alive. Paramedics were called, and after a thorough checkup, the man was declared stable and sent home. Quite the turnaround from being presumed deceased. Unidentified woman alive. In South Africa, an ordinary traffic incident took a twist straight out of a thriller. Paramedics were sure a woman wasn't breathing after the mishap, so they prepared for something really not good. But guys, here's where it gets wild. Hours later, hospital workers were in for the shock of their lives. They found the woman very much awake. The whole hospital buzzed with disbelief as the news spread like wildfire. Reporters rushed to the scene, eager to cover this jaw-dropping surprise. Despite the medical team's thorough checks, it was the mortuary staff who saw what they thought was a ghostly sight: a living person in the fridge. An investigation was launched, and while the woman's identity remained a secret, the good news came out: she was recovering well. Subscribers pick. Here's today's subscribers pick sent to us by one of our subscribers. Meet Rosalia Lombardo, a little girl whose life took a sad turn because of pneumonia in 1920. She was preserved by her heartbroken father with some cutting-edge embalming methods. Fast forward over a century, and her eerily lifelike body is on display in a museum. But now, it gets really creepy. Visitors all over the world claim Rosalia's eyes seem to blink at night. Yep, it's true. People say she gives a little wave, even though she's gone for decades. And speaking of creepy, have you heard about the Capuchin monks' catacombs? They're also packed with monk mummies that seem to watch you as you walk by. So if you've had any spooky experiences like these, drop a comment below.